name is Beck and welcome to all of my unread books. I have a bunch of them on the shelf here. My physical TBR is quite small. It used to be a couple of years ago over 200 books, but I've done a lot of work since then, and now I only have under 20 books on my TBR. So I'm just going to run through them really quickly. I do have a whole bunch of stuff on my Goodreads that I do plan on reading in the future, but I don't necessarily own yet. I want to get to a whole bunch of rereads, so all of my social media are all linked down below. And let's get into the books. I'm just going to list them, maybe say something here and there, but for the most part, it's just going to be everything literally that I have on my TBR. Skin Game, Briefcases, Peace Talks, and Battleground, all by Jim Butcher as part of the Dresden Files series. I do listen to these on audiobook, but I also really like having the physical copies. So I have these as symbolic books on my TBR because I do eventually get the audiobooks for each one and I listen to them instead. So those are my Jim Butcher collection as of now. I've also got Kushal's Dart, which is the cringiest cover, and a mass market paperback, which I don't really love, but I hope what is inside is better than what is on the outside. The Vore by Brian Catling, Abaddon's Gate, which is book 3 in the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey, The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell, and I've since had my friend Marie review this on her blog, and she said on her blog that this is not as good as she thought, but her expectations were set up in a way that made her not enjoy this as much. So thanks to her review, my expectations are now very low for this, so hopefully I enjoy it where she didn't. A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martin. And this is, I think, a sci-fi, but I've been told not to expect a sci-fi. So my expectations are all over the place for this TBR, but hopefully I like this one as well. Baptism of Fire by Andrei Sapkowski, I think. This is book 5 in the Witcher series, which I'm trying to get through this year. Battle Mage by Stephen Arian. I think it's potentially older school rather than contemporary, but honestly I couldn't tell you, and that's why I picked it up, because I just want to know what the chatter is about, and it seems like it's kind of an older school book. I hope it's a little bit more contemporary than I'm expecting, but we'll see. And then we've got City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett, and this one came to my attention because my partner saw it recommended on Reddit on a thread of sci-fi books that were supposedly really good. So I just have this on his authority and I haven't seen any kind of review for this at all, but I have heard the name whispered for Robert Jackson Bennett, so I'm assuming that it is worth the hype, but I'm sure I'll find out. Then I've got The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. This is one that I started in January on audiobook, and I put it down because the audiobook didn't really seem to suit the kind of storytelling that this was aiming for. For example, there were a couple of flashbacks and a lot of setup for the world building as well as setting up your main character, and because of all of the moving parts, it felt very jarring to read it as an audiobook because it would suddenly switch setting and you'd be like, wait a second, where am I again? So because of that, I put the audiobook down, and I'm going to give this eventually another shot, but I don't know if I'm necessarily going to read it this year. I might even revisit it next year with fresh eyes. I want to like it because I like N.K. Jemisin, and I don't want to think about my DNFing the audiobook as the way that I'm going to approach this. So I kind of want to remove any negative outlook I have on potentially not enjoying this first, and then go into it as fresh as possible. So I'm trying to give myself a little bit of distance. And then lastly in that stack, I've got All That's Left in the World by Eric J. Brown, and all I know about this is that it's a young adult apocalyptic book, and this was sent to me for a review by Hachette the publisher, but I think this is out now. It's out either this month or during March, so it can be obtained by anybody who wishes to read an apocalyptic book. I have just dropped the ball on this and I've not read it. I don't even know if it's on my Goodreads, and I usually try and keep that very up to date, but I think this just missed that as well. So this has really been off my radar, so shame on me. The Black Hawks by David Ragg, Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons, The Dark One comic by Brandon Sanderson. A little bit iffy on his comics so far, even though he's one of my favorites, so I'm avoiding it. I'm procrastinating it because I want to like it and my expectations are too high. So fingers crossed that I like this one as well. There seem to be a lot on here that I'm like, actually though, this and this. So hopefully this one falls on the side of the road that I enjoy, rather than on the other side, which is where my expectations let me down. I want to like this, I really do. Black Sun by Rebecca Rowanhorse, Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson, and then lastly on my physical TBR is Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. And now you know, that is everything that I have physically on my TBR so far. It doesn't include audiobooks, and I know I have Empire of Silence, which is a standalone fantasy book, on audio. I really struggled to get that physically, so I went to Audible instead. So all of that plus Empire of Silence are on my TBR. not including rereads because I'm rereading a lot of Brandon Sanderson this year, and I'm hoping to get to Robin Hobb as well. And I'm also currently rereading the Red Rising saga as well. So I have a bunch of stuff that I'm trying to get through. Ultimately, I would like to get through at least half of this, if not more, during this year. There are a few readathons coming up, and I know that my reading is really kicking up at the moment rather than settling down. So I'm aiming to get through a few things. The thing is, a lot of these are the beginnings of series, and I want to start a series and then continue the series. So something like Ruin of Kings, for example, I know is at least a 4-book series, if not being continued, because I don't think it's complete. So I know that when I start Ruin of Kings, it might look like 1 book on here, but it's actually like 4 or 5 or 6. So I'm wary of that before I go into it. And I know, like The Expanse as well, I have book 3, but I know it's about 7 books in the series. So I'm trying to do my best, and that's all we could really hope for. But if you've got anything on your TBR that is similar to mine, or if you've just got something recently that you want to share, I would love to hear. Thank you again so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.